Gidday Swingers, and good morning. It is Friday the 1st of September. Spring has sprung. It's episode 29. We're starting to creep up a bit. Today's guest is our first female guest. We've had nothing but males and blokes, and we're very happy about that. But today's episode, that's where it sort of ends for now, Swingers. Today's episode is a very serious episode. It's quite traumatic and compelling. It's a story that has to be told and hasn't been told before. It's basically an exclusive we have. So I need to go through a few things with you at the start before we start to interview our guest. We were approached by our lady guest today. They approached us because I'm not a journalist and we're not media. I'm just an average bloke doing this little show. This guest approached us, and I know of the case, and the first thing I actually said to her was, I will not be paying you. And her reply was as quick as what I said to her was, I don't want any money. I want to have my say. I want to tell my story. She's never really had the opportunity to tell her story. So straight away, I had to sort of chew on that for a few days, Swingers, because this is a very serious situation. We're going to get a coverage of her life and the lead up to this horrible sort of situation, but it has to be told. So after a few days, I said, look, I'd be mad to do this, but I would be madder if I didn't do this. I'm a big believer that everyone is entitled to a reply or their say, and there's also two sides to every coin. With that, I accepted to do this today. What I have to emphasise, and I can't emphasise enough, is we are not a business and there's no financial gain. No money has changed hands today. This lady approached us. It is an exclusive. It did take me a while, and it was a little sad and on my behalf, but I've decided to do this. So whatever comes of this interview today, this is on me. This is on me, okay? No money changed hands. She's our first female guest. Basically wanted to get that across to you. I want as many people on Macca's Old School to view us as possible, but if this is too much or if this is too distressing for you, I understand that. I get that. So, a serious one today, Swingers. It's a bit of a hard story for certain people, but it is an exclusive. This lady's never had a say. She has been out of prison for about 3 years now. She got a lot of bad media, a lot of bad press, but it's time now to talk about this. So as I said, Swingers, I appreciate all our 387 Swingers now. Thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. If you hate me today, or if you're upset or distressed today, I understand that, but it's on me. Blame me. I apologise for that. Okay, I needed to get that out of the way. All right, Swingers, we'll start episode 29. As I always say, without further ado, I would like to introduce our first female guest on Macca's Old School today. Donna Deves, good morning and welcome. Folks, Donna Deves. We're going to basically start, Donna, with, I would like most of our guests we do, is a lead up of your life, where you came from, whether it's teenage, childhood, and we'll lead up to the point of this horrible crime, horrible story. Whenever you're ready, take your time and tell us about your life and take it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up on the Central Coast of New South Wales. I was raised in a housing commission area.
Yep.
I was the fifth child of 6 children.
Wow.
My mum had been married previously and also had another child from another relationship. And then she met my father, and I was my dad's first child. Yeah, there was a interesting dynamic because of my father being, I suppose the other children and my mum's first husband did not like or appreciate the fact that mum had moved on.
Yep.
And he still tried to interfere somewhat in the relationship. So it was always very strained from the beginning.
Yeah.
But my father willingly took on the extra responsibility of the other children. Yeah, and my mum had many medical issues throughout my childhood. My mum was born with polio.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Sorry, wasn't born with polio, had polio. And through my life, she was pretty unwell.
Yeah.
With different medical issues.
It was very common back in your mum's day too, polio. Yeah, it was bad.
So she had many medical issues. My mum actually carried me with cervical cancer unknowingly.
Oh, wow.
And I'm here though.
Yeah.
So she obviously is very strong. And then at around 4 months of age, I was quite sick. Ended up in hospital. I now know that I had bacteria in my system. I know that from records now that I had contracted that from the water in the area. And then around 6 months of age, I was very sick and wasn't making my baby weight checks and stuff like that, my checkups. And my mum was frantically like running around trying to work out what was wrong with me until she saw the chemist, and the old pharmacist said to her, "Do you think maybe she could have worms?" Like, and my mum's like, "Oh, I'd know." So yeah, I did have worms. I was being basically eaten from the inside by an intestinal worm. So yeah, I wasn't well. That's why I wasn't well. But again, I got better, and so I'm here. So
yeah,
I lived. So that's the first bit of my life.
Yeah.
Another event that I clearly remember was I have an older sister, my eldest sister, and I have vivid memory of this event because I was young. I was about 2 years old.
Yeah.
My brother was a little baby. I remember a police officer coming to the door and my mum going to the door, and my sister had been involved in a massive car accident.
Wow.
And my sister died. They resuscitated her 3 times.
Shit.
And
Went
there was
into
many
arrest
people.
and, yep.
Yeah, there was many people in the car. It was very bad. Yeah.
Was it speeding or whatever
Yeah.
involved?
Basically, they clipped a tree.
Oh.
And on a very sharp bend on the Central Coast at Tacoma on the river, so the car was submerged in the water. My sister just happened to be saved by the tree that was there, and she ended up being in hospital with on life support. I was taken to visit my sister because they had read her last rites at one point.
Yeah.
I just vividly remember the tubes and the older breathing machines, and it was pretty full on, like.
Yeah.
Like, because you see tubes and people just laying there like...
Intensive care, it's full on, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that one. That sort of shook me. I haven't forgotten that. I haven't forgotten that one.
Yeah.
But she survived with no speed, and she's got 1.5 lungs, but she survived, so...
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So your family, excuse me, you were doing it tough too. What did your father do?
My father basically left school at the age of 14 to start track work.
Yeah, wow.
So he was semi-illiterate, but quite capable with manual labour.
Yeah.
But yeah, by no way was there a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because there was the other kids as well. Yeah. So basically, whatever labour.
Yeah.
Like whatever he could do, because in those days you didn't really have a resume and qualifications, and I do know that Dad went back to TAFE.
Yeah.
And I do know that Dad learned to read better and stuff. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah. He was good at labour, like hard labour. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of money, and we didn't have a lot, which led to bullying a lot, because no clothes, like not the nicest clothes and stuff, and all of that.
People yelling at your family's poor and what have you and all that stuff. Kids do, yeah.
But I didn't mind that, because looking on it, I think, well, okay, I may not have had nice clothes, but I was fed.
Yep. Yep.
A lot of those kids that I grew up with were going home to their parents drunk, or on drugs and no food on
Nothing
the table.
to eat. Yeah.
So it was rough, but I don't see mine was the worst. I don't see my situation as the worst in my surroundings.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting like abused by my parents or like necessarily bashed every day or something. So I know that people probably think, oh, it's pretty bad still, but it wasn't as bad as other people.
Yeah. There was no domestic violence or
No,
anything
until
like that?
like later down the track. My mum
Excuse me.
is very verbal, and I think most people would consider that domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
But she had suffered in her first marriage
Yeah.
domestic violence
Your mother, yeah.
from
Yeah.
her husband and their children also, and she had been a victim of domestic violence and being bashed and being put in hospital, and
Yep.
she, for whatever reason, decided when I was getting on a bit to be very verbal and aggressive towards my father. My father isn't a man that will hit a woman. He had grown up with having a father that was an alcoholic that did put hands on his mum. So my dad will not put hands on a woman.
Yep. Yep.
And I'd always been taught it was wrong to put hands on a female.
Yes.
Okay. So my mum was the aggressor on many occasions. And I remember one night she started throwing objects, plates, stuff like that. The next day I went to the school carnival and basically come home and Dad had left like he was asked. He didn't argue with her, he didn't hit her, he left.
And that was it.
And from that point, I saw my dad after that, but they were separated from then.
Yep.
Okay.
So you did see your father a few
definitely
times, yeah.
came back a month later.
Yeah, right.
He didn't. And Dad will always come back, and my father would always give her money, or my father would always come back and make sure we had something.
Yeah.
Okay, but my mum really didn't handle the situation very well. She thought, I think she did what she did and was arguing and told him to leave, but then was like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do for food or the bills or whatever? But she did go downhill. Like, she did not know how to handle that very well.
Yeah. It's tough. You got a bunch of kids and, yeah, how to put food on the table, yeah.
But for the most part, by then it was just myself and my brother. The other kids had gone and taken off. There's a fair age gap. So yeah, it was me and my brother, and then mum, I don't know. I learnt to look after my brother and me from about 7.5, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I learned how to clean and cook, and that's all I knew.
Yeah. Well,
that's it. That's pretty much it. That's all I knew.
Yeah. You had no form of abuse at all when you were younger?
Yeah, around that age, at some point, my brother and his first wife, my oldest brother, who's now dead, did live in our home at some point, and I become the victim of sexual assault. That wasn't this person, and that didn't come out till years later.
Yep.
And the result of me coming out with that later ended up with me being kicked out of a home and an AVO put on me by my mother.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Because she didn't like the information, and that's the result of my disclosure of that.
Yeah.
And the only person that believed me was my brother. Was my youngest brother.
Yeah. What happened after that, obviously? You eventually left and came to Sydney, or what?
No. I basically couldn't handle... I had a couple of occasions, so not just the AVO. There was another occasion where I was threatened. My mum had to go to a meeting at the school that night, and she'd threatened to split my head open if I wasn't out of the house before she returned. My dad up and picked the stuff. My dad was also back at the house at the time.
Shit.
My dad picked up my clothes, put him in a blanket, and put it in the bed of the car. And I was driven to my auntie's house. My dad's sister.
Right.
Who...
Still up the Central Coast.
No,
Newcastle.
Newcastle,
Yep.
And I was basically, here you go, here's the room. You're here now, you're living here. Coming on, I started school up there.
I was going to ask that, you're doing school up there.
Yeah, I started up there at school at Francis Way.
How was that?
Not good.
Yeah.
Because it was a weird dynamic. I was living in my auntie's house with Dad. I had another auntie living around the road with her husband and my cousins, and it was just really strange because the school, I didn't know these kids.
Yeah.
See, when I was in primary school, I was in one primary school for my whole primary school years, and then most of the people I knew come to school with me at high school.
Yep.
I didn't know these people. I hadn't grown up with them. I was missing my little brother. I was missing. So I returned home.
How was your mother with that when you came back to home?
It was really bad, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think on one occasion, I actually was taken out of there by a youth worker, like an Aboriginal youth worker,
Right.
because of the condition of the house, basically. And it had gone to ruin, like it was really bad. And she tried to put me in a refuge at one point, and I ran away from the refuge because there was restrictions and rules, and it was just some people from the area had showed up at the refuge to threaten me as well.
Oh, Christ.
Because the refuge was literally around the road from my home.
Right.
And so I took off from the refuge. But the other time, so yeah, my mum did the AVO thing on me. So I left the house a couple of times. I was kicked out or had the AVO. And
how old were you at this time, Donna? Sort of still teens.
Yeah, I was still my teens. So I think, if I remember now, I remember I was about 16, nearly 17 when the last thing happened. I was outside. My father was inside washing the dishes. My mum took off around the road to a family friend, and I'm minding my own business, and all of a sudden a police car pulled up, and I'm being told that I have to leave the house. My father comes out like, "What's going on?" Where do you think I'm going? Like, where do you think I'm going? I don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
You have to leave the house, like my mum's AVO.
Jeez, yeah.
The thing that hurt the most with the AVO is in the AVO you have to give details of why you need the AVO, and there was so many lies in that. And the way that she portrayed me was that she'd also made out like I'd threatened my brother's life. And
did you say you were assaulting her or anything, or just verbally?
Yes, she basically said I'd threatened to set the house alight. I'd thrown something at her. I threatened to kill my brother, which is completely
false.
False, yeah. That's what hurt in the AVO. I basically didn't fight the AVO. I let it happen, but yeah. I returned to the home so many times, and I still just got along with it and was just like, let her be, let her, like, she needs you to help her, like, still, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
When did you, coming forward a little bit now, when did you sort of come to Sydney? How old were you when you came to Sydney? Did you come to Sydney to work, or?
No, I left jail and decided I'd live in Sydney, not to return to the coast.
Yep.
I lived on the coast all my life up
Right.
until going into custody. But yeah, so I made a decision in jail that for a fresh start and to basically go away from everything that I'd grown up around, I would live in Sydney.
So childhood, you know, you've been upset, you've had problems. Stress with your mother, AVO, it's, you know.
I could throw in some more things.
You can. This is open to you. You can honestly, Donna, say whatever you like.
I have been bashed. Basically, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been assaulted, because our house would become a target, because sometimes we did have things like I don't know, like a clothes or something, or maybe a birthday present of a CD player or something.
So this is locals or school kids?
Yeah, this is just people that are my neighbours breaking in and stealing my stuff for drugs.
Yeah.
Our house was being broken into
regularly,
so regularly that one time I'd been broken into, my room alone.
Jesus. And thereafter, just cash, TV, whatever?
I had clothing stolen that was in shopping bags that hadn't been worn. Right, and I'm not the type of person that was taken too kindly to that, because I'd had my room broken into twice in 2 days. For whatever reason, they needed the money.
Yep.
And I would have altercations, and I would chase the people I believe to have taken the stuff. I have had fights, but if you go after one person where I'm from, it might go alright for you, but rest assured, when they get you the next time, they're going to have 5 people, 6 people, and you're going to get
the
back.
Shit out of you.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's how they work. So that's happened to me a lot. I couldn't tell you the amount of times. I also was raped. I have been raped. From my understanding from counselling sessions and stuff, I've managed to disassociate, and at times I had managed to block a lot of it out.
Yeah.
So I could not tell you the amount of times, because I'd managed to block it out, and then I was in counselling sessions and something would come out.
Yeah. I've heard that you can block it out for years, but it will come back. It'll come back.
Or a certain phrasing of a word, or the way that someone speaks to you, can trigger you. That happened in jail to me with something.
Yeah.
But all that had happened to me as well, and no one knew. Well, with one rape that happened, my brother and the neighbour, the girl I grew up with, actually walked in and stopped it.
Jesus, yeah.
And my little brother kicked that person out of the house and locked him out. And on that occasion, I tried to... I was drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say this. I was drinking because it was that person's birthday, and that person was a few years older than me, and my mum had happened to buy that carton.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we were left to our own devices. Okay, to the extent by the time that happened and my brother kicked that person out, I was then breaking glass bottle and trying to slice my wrist.
How old were you then, roughly?
I was
roughly sort of
14.
Yeah, right.
The person was like only 2 years older than me, but I don't think that was a good decision. I don't think most people would have brought that carton of alcohol for their daughter's older boyfriend.
No. Yeah. It's not the wisest thing to do, no. What happened? We're going to go forward a bit, Donna. So I wanted to outlay some stuff like that, just to give you an idea, swingers, of how these things can affect your life when you're younger and what have you. So we'll go forward a bit now. Okay. You met a partner.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to justify that. We'll just say your partner. When did you two get together and you first met this fella?
I had the 3 children already.
Yeah.
I was living in a house down the road from...
Like roughly how old again?
Yeah. I was 26, 27. Okay. No, I was 27.
Right.
Okay. And here's the sad part about this. I did not know him long. Okay, I wasn't even with him. And someone pointed this out to me in custody, that it's extremely sad that in such a short space of time he ruined my whole life, basically. I got with him and he moved into my house and I had my 3 children, and I believe I've worked out I was only with him maybe a month and a half, 2 months at the most.
Right.
But I also think that, I'll say this now.
Yep.
As a single mom with 3 children, with a lot of stuff that had happened to me, I should have helped myself
Before the kids.
Before the kids. I'll
Yep.
say that now, and I've had a lot of time to think about it.
Yep.
I was a person that should have been fixed.
Yep.
I didn't have the chance to fix myself.
Yeah.
Having your children, yeah, great. Like, having my eldest saved me, in the respect that I'd had eating disorders from a very young age as well.
Mm-hmm.
In that respect, she saved me. But I lost my daughter as well, like my oldest daughter, and I had to fight to have my daughter returned to me. And I fought a very long process to get my daughter back. But yeah, she saved me. But everything that I had happened to me, I didn't work on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just there. It was still there. And then I had children.
It's snowballing and building up a bit. And yeah.
I should have pulled up and fixed myself. That's what I will say. And then I probably would have made better decisions.
Yeah.
And a better decision would have been not having him near the children.
Yep. Were you, when you were with your partner, were you working or anything at the time?
No,
were you
no.
out a lot? Was he alone with the kids, obviously, a bit? Or
I wasn't working, but if I had to go collect my other daughter from school and things like that, I was the one going to, like, the local, there was an IGA, like, the local store to get things.
Doing mum stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, or collecting her, and he'd be just like, leave the others here. And I'd be like, someone needs he needed cigarettes. There might be need for nappies or whatever.
Milk, bread, whatever.
Yeah,
yep.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go maybe after school with my daughter and collect those. So he was left there with the other 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
For me picking up my daughter or dropping her off at school or for whatever reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how long were you actually with this person?
Roughly, I think 2 months.
That's it, 2 months.
2 months.
My goodness. Obviously, swingers. We're now talking about Tanilla. It was your 2-year-old. Yeah.
Nearly 3, yeah.
Yeah, nearly 3-year-old. And your partner.
Yeah.
I have to ask some questions what the swingers would like to know too. And I remember hearing this on the news at the time myself. What you hear on the news these days and what's real life is 2 different ballparks, really. I mean, the media, we're not media, and that's why I appreciate you chatting with us. But you get a whole lot of different stories to what's going on. Did you know, and I have to ask, Donna, did you know of any abuse at this point too? Did you suspect to your child? This guy had obviously fiery temper, and yep.
I had watched him like yell at my other kids.
Yep.
I watched him maybe smack one of my kids. Not to.
Did you sort of say, "Oi"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but I also got to the point of when he'd pick up an object, like a spoon or something, and try to hit, and then it'd be gone. I'd be hiding things. But for some reason, he didn't have as much of an issue with my oldest daughter.
Right.
Well, my middle daughter, though, not even, because her behaviour was very quiet and very well behaved.
Right.
So, for whatever reason, it was my youngest that he had he just had the worst hate for her than
attitude straight away.
I don't know why. Because I can't understand that mentality. Because she's the youngest, so I don't.
She's a baby, virtually. Yeah.
I don't understand that.
So it was crying and things like that would obviously set him off, or
no. The thing with that is she doesn't cry. Like, to me, she wasn't though. She's not. She's like, babies and little kids are really like, some are really misbehaving or crying, but she wasn't that kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was happy. She wasn't a crying, annoying, sort of at times child. Like, she just wasn't. The thing that was, she had a dummy, and to be honest, she wasn't going to the toilet. Now, for me, that wasn't an issue because my oldest daughter was at school.
Yeah.
My next child was about to start school, and I was like, oh, you know, whatever, so be it. Like, I've got time with her, and that's my last child. So it doesn't matter. It wasn't an issue to me. You know, but he didn't like the fact that she was in nappies or she had a dummy. It was just like...
Jesus, she was 2 years old.
So issues. Something that had to be an issue with him. Or she had a mindset at one point. I remember the argument with him about her deliberately disobeying or defying him.
Jesus, she's 2 years old.
That's his mindset.
Yep.
That's his mindset. He could... in his head, believe that a child of that age was deliberately undermining him. Now, another part of that is he expected me to put my hands on my children. And I was constantly downgraded and belittled and threatened by him for not touching my kids, for not harming my kids.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you. Physical abuse, mental abuse. This is what I'm asking. Was this what he was putting you through? Obviously verbal. He was verbaling you.
Mine
verbal
was
abuse.
verbal.
Was it every day? Was it full on? Was he intimidating? Were you scared of this guy?
He's very intimidating. I was told, if you talk, no one's going to believe you, which is true. In my mind, that's true because I didn't associate with my neighbours. I didn't with the wider community. They're not people I have a relationship with.
Yep.
So his thing was, oh, you know, if you say anything, everyone thinks you're feral. Everyone thinks your children are feral. No one likes you. My family are well liked. My family have worked with community services. We're carers. That kind of mindset of, so if you say something, no one will believe you because no one likes you around here anyway. And then it was, oh, do you want your kids to be feral or are you going to do something?
Jesus.
Or are you going to let them do this? Or on one occasion it was, are you going to choose your daughter over me? Oh. Being my youngest daughter, and I packed a suitcase for him.
Yeah.
But he didn't leave.
A couple of months, yeah.
He didn't leave. Like, he walked in, saw the suitcase and was like, oh. But it's my house, so if I pack a suitcase, there's a pretty good chance you take the suitcase and leave.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So
did you know to the extent, obviously he's got this issue with your young daughter, Tanella, and you, to this extent, you didn't know that, I mean, there's so much stuff in the papers too that he was constantly, this is an awful topic, but constantly flogging her or whipping her or beating her or... Is all that true? And did you... Well, it comes back to a question I asked before. Yeah, you didn't know, or you didn't know to the extent of it?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I saw
But how could you not know as well? And I mean that nicely. It's a question that the Swingers has to ask. How could you not know?
Okay. On one occasion, I came back to the house from somewhere, and my daughter, her hand was swollen. Yeah, her hand was pretty badly swollen.
Jesus.
Okay. I questioned him about that. Like, what happened there? Like, what's going on here? And he played doctor then, which is really sick. She had the toolbox shut on her hand when we were under the car. Like the metal toolbox.
Yeah.
A small child and a large metal toolbox. It didn't sit well with me.
Of course. Yeah.
But I will say this, and I'm not going to lie about this. He iced that hand. That hand was in a very bad way. We had a visitor come to the house who'd had first aid training or something.
Right.
But he's an associate of my ex's, and he was concerned. I had to go somewhere. He was in the home. He saw my daughter's hand, which was still a bit swollen. He was concerned. He raised those concerns to my ex and wanted to look at it. Warren made some comments to him that have later been reported and were in a statement. Made some comments to him about, oh, watch me make her jump and stuff. Like, so when I said he played doctor, like at one stage he was putting ice on her hand, but then when this guy wanted to look at the hand, he told the guy, "Look at me." So he hit her hand in front of the person who was absolutely sickened by it.
Mm. It is sickening. Yeah.
So, yeah, 1 minute I'm watching him put ice on something when he's done this, and then when I'm not there, he was hitting the injury. Like,
yeah,
that's how he's.
And this is all in the space of this couple of months period. The whole build up and excuse me.
But I know that he'd hit my other kids now. Now I know that. But like I said, my eldest daughter didn't cop the amount of the same treatment.
Yep.
But I also know that there was many occasions where my oldest daughter got in trouble.
Mm.
She got in trouble in front of me, and she was stood in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that my oldest daughter deliberately tried to put herself in a position to take the brunt of the force of her sister, basically. That's the only way to put it.
Yeah.
She put herself in the fight.
What happened, I believe that the Department of Community Services, DOCS, there was lots of visits from DOCS while this was all going on. What happened there?
Okay. My brother made, I believe, over 8, maybe 10 or more reports.
Right.
Concerned for my children.
Yep.
For Warren being in the house. My brother was told.
Did your brother at any point sort of say,
"Fuck
off"?
Well, yeah, they did
what
actually.
I mean? Like, yeah.
They had an altercation one time out in the street or on the driveways.
Yep.
With a neighbour watching it.
Yeah.
And Warren started saying stuff, and my brother said, "Well, you know what, mate?
Fuck you.
Basically, you're a piece of shit. All you've ever done is taken advantage of most of the women in Wyong that are single mums with children and taken their pension."
Yeah.
And my brother actually said that to him. And
You
then Warren offered him to go around the Oval.
Yep.
And have a fight with him.
Yep.
And my brother basically stood his ground and said, if you want, I'm not a female, I'm not a child.
Yeah.
I'm right here. You come up here.
Have a go. Yep.
And my brother is not a fighter.
Yep.
By any means. But he did not like him. My mother did not like him.
Right. So your brother was letting DOCS know and saying...
My brother came to being told by DOCS that if he didn't pull up, they'd come for him. Like if he didn't mind his business and stop making reports, they'd come and have a look at his children. Now, if you come from...
I know DOCS isn't perfect, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
they basically told my brother-in-law in certain terms that he needed to stop making reports because they'd come for his kids. Now, his partner, his wife, they were married. They lived
and they spoke to your partner, the monster. They spoke to him, DOCS,
when
they
on
came
one occasion,
many times. And
no. They showed up once. I know, maybe twice at the most.
When he was
in the house.
Yep.
They came on one occasion. I got back from the shop in the pouring rain. I'm trying to straighten myself up. He was sitting at my dining table playing house and making tea for them.
Oh, okay. So he's bunging it on. Yep.
He was a nice person outwardly.
Yep.
He carried himself around outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm a good bloke, you know.
Mm.
But no, I know now from what I've seen and what DOCS knew.
He's obviously a control freak and a narcissist sort of thing. And
basically, I was left many occasions without any money. Really, like from him. But I was always under the threat of no one will believe you, or I'll go to DOCS tomorrow and tell them you hit your kids. Yeah.
And he's from a big, well-known family up there at the time. You're saying?
I would say to a degree, he's from quite a big family where I lived exactly. He had an uncle up the road, his dad down the road, and an auntie around the road who was a dealer.
And they believe every word that comes out of this fella's mouth, I guess.
I'm going to say, at that time, his own father had an AVO on him.
Yeah, right, okay.
His own family are scared of him. And everyone in between, in my area, I believe a lot of people know a lot of things about each other.
Yep.
Or have things on each other. And have done criminal things or whatever the case may be. They have to stand by each other. And
Yep.
I never was the person that was involved with them. I was never the person to stand with them and do the things they were doing, okay? He has an element of people are fearful of him.
Yep.
Yeah. Even one of his brothers is well known in jail as being quite a tough person.
Oh, he has a brother in jail too.
Yeah, his younger brother, who's quite a big guy, is quite well known as like being a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
And drugs and the use of the drugs, and like I said, a lot of people are very scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And there's obviously just that control. I mean, he's obviously a very controlling person and very self-absorbed, a narcissist or whatever. So he was basically intimidated. Did you feel intimidated all the time around this person?
I know I did, because I couldn't even go to the shop.
It's full on control, really, isn't it?
And you're like, I got asked several times, how come you were that long? How come you were that long? What were you doing? Or I need this. I'm running out of this. I'm running out of pot. I'm running out of this. I need this.
Did he take a lot of drugs and stuff like that, or it was mainly just pot and beer?
No. He doesn't drink. Here's the thing. I thought the weed wasn't a big issue because
You smoked a lot of weed, yeah.
But from my understanding, there isn't a drug he hasn't touched. I know that now.
It can mess with your head. Weed can mess with your head a lot.
He's
long
bipolar.
Term. Oh, he's bipolar as well.
I
He's
didn't
got
know
to
that.
say there's the mental health going on there, obviously. Yeah.
I know now that there's a possibility that he was going and partaking of drugs, just not in front of me. Of other drugs, because he has used every other drug. From what I know now, yeah, he's used every other drug known to mankind. So.
He obviously didn't do any work at any stage. He was just home all the time and.
No, he wasn't working. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so aside from the drugs, he already had an underlying mental health issue that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
But you could see the behaviour go from one extreme to the next.
Yeah. Oh, it's bloody awful. Look, we'll go forward through to 2011.
Okay.
To the August, 25th, I believe. What happened? What happened there? What happened with Tanilla? In your own words, there's a lot of people, and basically when he was assaulting her, there's a lot of say what happened in this 48-hour period. What happened in the 2 days?
Okay.
You want to explain that? Yeah, please. Because I remember, and all the swingers at the time, I just went, oh, fucking hell. But again, you're here now, having your say, so please let us know what happened. Okay. I believe it was the 25th of August 11, so...
I think... Yeah.
In your own time, mate. That's
okay. Yeah. So, like I said, he goes up and down.
Yep.
And whether he's got drugs, it's usually when he hasn't got drugs that he'll be...
He's out of pot. Or
he's
whatever.
upset.
Yep.
He's emotional. So, it wasn't anything major or a big difference of a day. Like, it wasn't anything really. Like, I don't really know. It's just that he was very high strung that day. For whatever reason, he was in one of his
freaking out
moods, right? Yep. The kids had gone out to the chickens, and he'd even sort of freaked out at my other two girls, because they didn't want to go near the chooks to get the eggs, and so they were told to get inside, and they were yelled at. Basically, something set him off, and
he's out of weed at this point.
Yeah,
which doesn't help.
He's high strung. He's carrying on.
Yep.
I don't know exactly what happened, but I recall my oldest daughter got in trouble, and she got put in a corner. And I recall my youngest daughter did something, and then she was put in the corner.
You were home.
Yeah.
All this, yep.
I think what happened was my daughter was at a point where she didn't know whether she was coming or going. Like, she's told, stand there, do this, do that, do this, do that. But she's also supposed to be going to the loo, so she's little. I don't think she knew what to do at this stage. I stand in the corner, do I go to the toilet?
Of course, yeah.
I
Just a
think
baby.
my oldest daughter, my oldest daughter is pretty good, but she will say things. And my daughter says things until she's in trouble. And that's it. That's my oldest daughter. But she did get hit. I know my oldest daughter got hit that time because she kept going. Because I think she was trying to distract away from...
And he never belted you? Him? No? Any physical on you? On you?
No, this time, he'd always threaten me. Like, he full threatened me every time when I had him out in the front. And I had a big altercation with him, and he basically...
You just get right in your face. And
yeah.
Yep.
My daughter, at one point, my oldest daughter got in trouble, and she kept going. She kept on with it. I remember that. And then I think she tried to help her sister, because at some point me and him were having a verbal. I remember that because I was like, do you really think she understands what is going on? And we had a verbal altercation because I remember now, because it got pretty loud because someone came forward and said they'd heard me argue with him.
Yep.
And I'm like, can we just leave her and just... Who gives a fuck, basically?
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck? We had a big argument. We had an argument. I said, who cares? Who cares? She's only nearly 3 years old. Who actually cares? And his response was, oh, well, you don't care. You're not going to back me up. And another tactic was...
Gosh, it's like she's fucking 2 years.
Aren't you going to hit her? Aren't you going to hit her? If you don't hit her, here's one from Mum. Bang. So every time I would not hit any of my kids, it was, here's one from Mum. So my arguing, my resistance to not hitting my kids basically got my kids hit. And if that had been another person, like in another situation I'd been in, where they threatened me, which has happened to me in the other relationship, I would have been all for it. Like, hit me. Hit me. Okay? Because I think if I got hit, that would have been... But that angle of, if I intervene here, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because every interaction...
You were pretty young yourself.
I was, yeah.
How old were you?
I was 27.
20s, yeah.
And I, as I said, believed strongly that I should have helped myself a long time before that.
Yeah.
I'll say that now.
What was that for? The media describes that 48 hours, and you know, they've said you sat there and you watched your daughter get beat and whipped and this and that. What do you say to that? That's the media saying that, and it was in lots of papers.
Yeah.
Mother sits there while daughter gets beaten for 48 hours or 2 days. It's horrific stuff.
I know you're right, and I know you're right in what you've said there, because I had someone say that to me.
I've read quite a few articles, and that's what it was. Mother sat there like blasé with try and make out with a cup of tea while your daughter's getting... What's your response to that?
I watched that standing in the corner.
Yep.
That argument that happened between us.
Yep.
It didn't happen over 2 days.
Yep.
My daughter was not attacked for 2 days with me sitting there having a cup of coffee.
That's why I'm asking, because the media made that out.
That's exactly how it was made out.
You guys sat there, but your daughter got these horrific bloody things happen to the poor kid, and you sat there and did nothing, and it was over a 2-day period before O was finally called.
Actually, this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, please.
I have a 5 and 7-year-old daughter in the house at the time. I was unwell. I was pregnant.
Yep.
Okay? I didn't know. 100%.
Your mental health's not in great shape either at this point. And
I don't eat. That I'm not making excuses. I don't eat. So, was I fully functioning? No, I wasn't. I wasn't. No one would have been. No one would have been fully functioning with a not eating, not sleeping,
Kids 27 years old.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that's no excuse. That's just the truth. I wasn't a person that was at my best self. I was on autopilot.
Yep.
Okay. My 5 and 7-year-old kids were there. One was in one corner. My youngest daughter was in one corner. We had that verbal altercation. We kept having that altercation. Like I said, I believe my youngest daughter didn't know whether she was coming or going. She peed herself.
Oh,
that's what
that's
triggered him. My other daughter had got maybe a little smack because she was being verbal.
Yep.
And she, by that stage, is like...
he wanted her automatically toilet trained like this
like
at 2 years old.
Somehow in his
click.
head.
Yep.
So he's grabbed her. But I was told to put the other effing children in the room. They haven't had dinner. They haven't had their bath. They haven't had anything, right? I was told to send the other 2 to their fucking room. He's dragged my daughter to the toilet.
Jesus.
I've had to try to get the other 2. And in a way, I was like, I might as well get my kids in the other room because at least they don't see it. The 5 and 7-year-old doesn't need to see if I get hit or if...
When you got your kids to that space, did you come back out? Or what
I went to
Donna?
him. He had my daughter, and I did see this. He held my daughter over the toilet by a leg. And I'm like, what the fuck? And we're having a verbal, and he's threatening me.
The kids there.
I'm trying, and their kids aren't settled. They're not. They're acting up in the other room. They're not settled. They haven't eaten. They haven't bathed. They're not going to behave themselves in the other room.
It's a horrific environment to be in for kids. It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
I basically could tell they weren't going to be settled,
and
I really did not want them in the middle of shit. To be honest, he proceeded to go turn the... I had the toilet there and the bathroom there and a bit of a hall and another bit of a hall. He proceeded to turn the shower on. I've said, look, can I get my kids... They need to eat. They need to eat. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I've got 2 kids that are unsettled. They're going to be in the middle of this in a minute. They're also hungry. I also wanted to distract him. I'm like, can I just get the kids to eat? Like, can I just get them out to eat? He's like, well, fucking do that. As he's running the shower, he grabs my daughter and held her under a shower.
Oh, fuck.
I had the other 2 kids in the trying to just rattling around for pots and pans, like just frazzled, like trying to find something for them to eat. Okay, trying to keep my kids at the dinner table. I hear a thud. I got like... I walk in there. I ran in there. I didn't see him hit her, but I'd heard it. That's what I'd heard. Okay. I grab him. There's water everywhere. Like I said, there's tiles, wood. There's water everywhere. And I've grabbed him by the shirt. And he swung around and backhanded me.
So you've gone flying across the bathroom.
So I've slid around in like my pajama bottoms onto the floor.
Yeah.
I'm on the wall by this stage. Hayes then proceeded to bring her out. I could tell at this stage that she did not look well. She wasn't well. I've said to him, fuck, like, she's not well. She's not right.
Stop,
yeah.
Stop, yeah.
He's like, oh. It goes, alright. I'll go, just go. Like, go.
Get out.
Just piss off. I'll ring the... I didn't have a phone. The only phone I had in that house was a mobile phone. It was in the bedroom, which is beside the hall. And it was his. Because the reason I didn't have a mobile phone is because I had to return the phone to my parents because my mum didn't agree with me being with him. That's that simple. I didn't have a phone.
Yeah.
Okay. She had joint bill of that phone, so I didn't have phone. The only phone that existed in that house was his phone that was in the other room right there. I asked him to go and let me ring the ambulance.
Yeah.
Because in my head it was like, well, if the ambulance comes and he goes, he's going to blame me, okay? Because he kept telling me that I was going to get the blame for my children's bruises and... Anyway, so by this stage it's like, you know what, like... When this ambulance comes, if he lets me ring it, I'm getting the blame for this anyway. That's how my mindset was. But he had my daughter.
You've got to get some help for your daughter.
He basically had my daughter by. She was like slipping, I think, in and out of consciousness. He actually kicked my daughter in front of me, between me and him, as I'm asking him to piss off and let me ring an ambulance. He grabbed he's boosted my daughter because of the water. She slipped across the floor. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm thinking my children are in the other room, none the wiser, trying to fucking keep them from it. But now I know that the kids did see more than
that you thought.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So he's kicked her sort of in front of me and said to me, if you're so fucking smart, you wake her up. But he picked her up again. If you're so fucking smart, wake her up. Because he always had this thing is, I always thought I was smart, but I was really dumb. He threw her on the bed and asked me to dress her.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, and I would say...
There's some stuff with
Thank
mate.
you. I would say this. Yeah, I shouldn't have left her there. Okay. And I shouldn't have left her there.
You own that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What do I do though? What do I do? Okay.
You're in a horrific situation.
What do I
with
do?
This pricking. Yeah.
I have an altercation with him further where I put myself at risk of being injured, and he goes and takes it out on my 5 and 7-year-old? Or do I get into an altercation and he grabs one of the other kids and then starts in on them? Or do I get into an altercation and all 3 of us are left there for dead?
Yeah.
Or all 4 of us left there for dead and he pisses off?
It's an explosion. It could go...
but I'll say this. When I was having the argument with him, when I was having the altercation and he's like telling me, like, you think you're so smart, he threatened to set my parents' home, like my mum's home at the time, where my brother resided with his wife and his babies. He threatened that if I didn't wake her up, that he was going up there to torch their house.
Oh, fucking hell.
Like he said, if I didn't wake her up, or if I didn't wake her up, he was going up the road, and I lived here, and basically my brother and mum and his kids and the wife lived on the opposite side of the road, a couple of doors up. Mm-hmm. He threatened to torch their house with my baby nephews in it. Which is interesting because I do know now that he has threatened many people in that way before.
Jesus. So this whole thing going on, as we said earlier, the media said this was a 48-hour, 2-day thing. This is the same day?
This is that same night.
Did it go for 48 hours? You're saying that's not correct?
That's not correct.
Yep.
Because,
this all happened in that day.
Because of my previous history with my trauma and stress,
yep.
I'm no good with times. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest there. So when I was interviewed during the process, I'm not very good with timelines.
Yep.
I know that the police's timeline was placed together and put together from footage they got from someone in the neighbourhood.
Right.
That seen me leave the home, and so they came to a timeline based on some video footage from a security camera, also my visit to the shop, and because I wasn't very good because of my traumas and stuff, I'm not good with times.
Yeah.
So when I was interviewed,
you're not good, but you're saying it definitely wasn't 48 hours. That's what the media and police report the whole time. It was over a 2-day, basically, it's horrible, but 2 days this poor child was tortured.
She wasn't tortured for 2 days.
Yeah.
But the 2-day timeline...
That's what I want to sort of clear. That's what the press and the police have said, and you're saying this all happened, I guess, within a day, or 24 hours or whatever. Yep.
And when I said I dressed her and I shouldn't have left her in the pram, later that night, she's laying there. She was breathing, but obviously unconscious.
You're fucking hysterical at this stage?
I can't tell you.
You're kind of numb.
Numb's a great word for it, because there's 2 other kids there that have to be kept away from
the monster.
From him, or from seeing that, or from seeing their sister, or he's gonna carry on, or he'll do something to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I know I'm numb. That is the perfect word for it. I'm numb. She's there. He had cerebral, yeah. So I did get my children to sleep without, as far as I was aware, without them knowing what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the night, he took the Seroquel and passed out to sleep. I haven't told many people this, but I didn't sleep. I think I slept a little bit. I sat by the pram and I prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. You've got to get that.
And then
to get help.
Yeah, I prayed and it didn't work.
Mm. Yeah, it's horrific situation.
So, at some point, I fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple of hours. I woke up to hear coughing, and I thought, I'm just going to go to the toilet, and I could hear coughing, and I thought she was waking up. It's what I heard. I don't know to this day if it was my other kids or not. I went to the pram, and I've looked over her and I thought, oh, maybe it was her coughing, and I went to pick her up because her colour didn't look right. And then I've held her up to me and realised, hang on a minute. She's not breathing. She's not breathing. And I've put my hand on
Where's the fucking phone? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've instead of like the phone's there, I'm holding her, but it's dawned on me, she's not breathing. I grabbed him. Okay, this is how messed up I was. I was so reliant on him that I grabbed him, like I reefed him, like he was under the effects of the Seroquel. But I know I must have been very, very loud because I've screamed and grabbed him by his shirt and like shook him awake with like, fuck, wake the fuck up, she's not breathing. Mm-hmm. Then I went to grab the phone. I've initially dialed the number and he has woken up and taken her from my arms. I'm having a conversation with the operator. I was lost. I didn't even know my own address.
Yeah.
I actually swore at an operator.
Yep.
She's like, what's your address? I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You get the fuck here. My daughter's like fucking dead. Like, yeah. The fuck, like, I don't know.
And he's in the background at this point yelling out, oh, this is what I'd led to believe off the media. She fell off the bed. Now he's starting to shit and try and cover his tracks. Is that correct?
Yeah, he grabbed her, yeah.
Yep.
He's like, taking the phone off me.
She fell off the bed.
There's a report that he made the call. It actually isn't the case. It was me. He's taken the phone and he's taken my daughter. He's proceeded to go to the lounge room. Oh, I'm frightened. And the operator's relaying instructions on how to resuscitate her. And I'm there just standing there knowing it's It's beyond it. Kind of like, and he's taken her into the other room, and he's like, I don't want to hurt her, and he's proceeded to try the CPR. But this is another missed fact. My daughter wasn't rushed to the hospital breathing at all. When I picked my daughter up, she was dead in my arms.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's not true either. I know that he proceeded to talk to the operator.
The operator's instructing CPR or something, yep.
Yeah, at some point he called his father, who lived just there, like a couple of doors down that street from us. Police obviously were contacted. I believe that might have happened as part of the response to...
Was it fairly quick, the response?
But what I'm saying is he phoned his fucking father, and his father showed up at that door before the police got there.
Straight away, he's only concerned about covering his tracks.
Yep. This is what happened, this is how it went down, this is what you say to me. That's exactly what he said.
Fucking hell.
Now, I'll be completely honest, like, for someone who's had a lot of distrust toward police, the officers that did arrive that night, the one very young officer, was very, very good to me, and has made me leave and not watch the officers trying to work on my daughter.
Yeah.
He was very good. The officer has taken me away from that, and I think, probably one of the better interactions in that moment that I've had with police. But
were they straight on to him, the coppers?
I think,
was this Gosford Police or something?
This was just the local command at the time. I believe that would have been wild. And I'll say this now. I think the reason that officer was kind to me in that moment was because I think that he was looking at him like, you're a piece of shit. I think the young officer sort of knew.
He's jerried that.
Yeah. But what happened was my other children were taken to his parents' house down the road so that we could go to the hospital. Oh, and I'll mention this. The reason my children weren't taken to my family's home up the road was because I wasn't on speaking terms with my parents. I wasn't on speaking terms with my family because of being in the relationship with him.
Yeah.
So when people say like, well, why didn't your family do more? Well, what could my family, in my brother's capacity, did what he could do. Yeah. And in
that was a complicated situation itself. Yeah.
After that, didn't have friends. I didn't have my family there after that because I made a decision. And I made a bad decision, and that's why I didn't have my family's help.
So both of you were obviously separated and taken to the police station?
No, we weren't. Here's the other thing. We went to the hospital.
Yep.
Following the ambulance. We were placed in a room, and the doctor has come in and described what they believe to be the cause of my daughter's passing.
Multiple injuries. And
he actually blew up and flipped the table in an office, so that was at the hospital come in, like, concerned. I wasn't allowed to, I was never asked if I wanted to go see my daughter. I wasn't asked by the staff if I wanted to say goodbye to her or anything, so I never did see her. I know that I left the hospital, I left with him. I can say this, so my children were at his parents' house. When we returned there, by that stage I couldn't go back to my house. My house became a crime scene.
And police are talking to everyone, I guess, at this stage.
Yeah.
Trying to get some information.
Yeah. And this is getting on into early hours of the morning now. My parents are aware kind of that something's happened, but they don't know. We're going to leave my kids. We're being told we have to go to the entrance police station. A uniform officer that I knew had arrived. I spoke with her, and I asked her, could she please go see my mum and tell her what happened. Myself and him were taken to the entrance police station together. And I spoke to police, he spoke to police. He was waiting for me when I finished the interviews. When we went back to his parents' house. Oh, that's right. What happened was, this is how my kids were removed. I have finished my interview. I walk out. He's outside. He comes up to me and says, "Your children have been taken." When I left my girls in that house to go with the detectives that morning, I said I'd be back. Docs removed my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
And no doubt the police, docs has opened right up and, oh yes, we know.
Yeah, but the thing is,
of Donna in this case and whatever.
Docs knew more than that before me. Docs knew.
Didn't do much.
Him. They knew him. They've known him and his what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that now. And I've seen paperwork. They knew. They knew him. They knew what he was like. So when they made a decision to come into my home and not pull me aside and say something, they could have. They could have. Like, that's hindsight though. But I also say they had a position, knowing his history, to say something to me. Not go, oh, it's all good. And walk away. If you had the report, like the record of him being previously violent to another partner while she was pregnant, hurting women, abuse of children in your files, and you walk into my, maybe you should have taken my brother's concerns on board more.
Was he known to police? He had previous charges and what have you?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. At the time that he did this, he was on parole.
Okay.
He'd been released from jail several times. Like, I don't even know how many times. There was an AVO with his, I would say, the first mother of his child. To this day, that AVO exists.
Did they speak to the mother of his child, the previous partner or whatever? Or
no. But I know this because I know all this now because I've sat this legal paperwork and docs and with the children's, my children's matters and with my son that I had in jail, and so I've got documentation about his history now. And there's no way I knew all of that in the small space of time that I knew him. But I also know now that certain people portray themselves as something they're not.
Yeah.
And he was one of those people.
So from now we'll lead up to, how long was it before this sad situation, before the police arrested you?
So for the whole time I was with Warren. Like, I was kept with him.
Yep.
I had nowhere to go. I couldn't return to my home to live. I was also told by police that I couldn't live in the street. Like, basically was told I couldn't visit my mum's home.
You're in shock. You're gobsmacked anyway. You know.
We were put up in a hotel room. The first accommodation was a hotel room, like on this, like literally on the Pacific Highway, Wyong, which is just streets away from where this happened.
Yeah.
I'm continuously kept with Warren and housed in motels, etc. Until.
With Warren the whole time.
Yeah, they kept me with him.
In your mind, are you thinking, I'd like to take to you with a fucking horsewhip or something?
No,
you know,
in my mind, I was thinking he'll crack and tell, like he'll crack and tell me. He'll crack and tell me. He'll crack and tell me.
Spill his guts.
Right? Or he'll own what he's done. I'll say this. We ended up in a motel room where he was unravelling. An incident occurred where his brother had, I believe, been probably put up to it. Contacted like us and contacted the phone, and like that's weird because shouldn't have the number, and it's one of his brothers, okay? And his partner's in the background, and they're saying, you're an animal, you're a piece of shit, like, why don't you just own what you did? Okay? And he's unraveling, and he's swearing, and I'm like, give me the phone, don't be stupid, like, don't be silly, like. And then his brother's trying to get me going, and I'm saying, all you need to do right now is, I don't know you, you don't know me, just have some respect and don't speak about my daughter.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That resulted in him threatening them quite severely on the phone. He ended up going to bed that night. I have entered the door, and police were there with with an AVO and extra charges for him because he threatened the pregnant partner of his brother over the phone. The next day, police he took a bunch of tablets to try to sleep and be asleep. Because the police wanted to take him to walk through my home the next day.
Right.
So at some point the next day, he's not well. Like, he's yelling, shouting, screaming, carrying on at me. The police ring. I answer the phone. He's punching the wall above my head. And they're like, well, we're going to have to take him to the doctor. You're going to have to go to the doctor then. You meant to come to this walk the walk through the house.
Yeah.
And, no. He, I said, look, I will do the walk through. The police like, no. It resulted in him being taken to the medical centre. I guess to give him more medication to settle him down. I don't know, but what happened was the opposite. My doctor actually was there that day, and my GP refused him and told him to get him out of there because he's a piece of shit. And that's the God's honest truth. Like, my GP happened to be there the day they tried to get him in there to get him something to settle him down, and my GP told him to get him the fuck out of there. That he was nothing but a piece of shit.
Nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, when did the police finally? I mean, obviously, it's awful. Do you know that some results from the coroner or hospital or whatever? When did they finally arrest him, and what happened with you? What happened in this situation?
As I said, he was gradually unraveling. I know now there was bugs.
Was it a few days
recording
later?
Bugs. There was bugs in the motel rooms. Okay, that's why we were put together, I believe.
Yep.
There's conversation, and one of the conversations cuts off, and Warren is sort of basically saying in one of the conversations, you will be okay if you go to jail, to me. And then it cuts off a little bit because he wants to go across the road to the waterfront and talk. Because in his head, I think he's realised now there's, like, we might be being listened to.
Yep.
So we had a conversation over there. And it was just like, oh, it's okay if you go to jail, you'll be okay, sort of thing. It was really, like, he was almost willing to throw me under, like, maybe like he was planning on saying I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he had, the way he said it was like, you'll be okay if you go to jail. Anyway, for whatever reason, he's continued to unravel further. He had this little car, and he made his uncle come, and he wanted to go up the bush. Now, everyone says, oh, you've had like a little picnic up there, and you've all run away, and he didn't, all this, but it...
Like you're having a good time.
Yeah, it was far from a good time.
Yeah,
It was...
horrific.
It wasn't a good time. We've ended up there. This car wouldn't start on one, and so that set him off some more. We got left up there in the mountains, in the bush. I'd never been there before. And he was starting to carry on. And then we got stuck at some point, and the car wouldn't start, and then he's left his drugs, his weed or whatever in there. And then he started, it got worse. Like, we had his dog with him as well. We had the dog, and he started laying into the dog. At one point, we managed to move the car to some point in the bush. At some point, we have a verbal argument, and he's just threatening me because he's got no drugs or they've been left at the other spot or whatever, and he's threatening me, kicking the dog. At some point, he was threatening to kill himself, and had strung a rope around the tree, and was going to kill himself.
Mm.
I talked him out of killing himself. Had an argument. I now know that I believe the phone had been bugged as well, because
the room would have been decked out.
We're in this bush, but somehow this recording of the verbal that he gave me and the threats that he gave me in that bush was recorded.
Well, do you have the sense of anyone the coppers following you or watching
No,
you, or binoculars or cameras in a car or something?
No, definitely not.
You would presume that.
I am lost. I haven't eaten. I'm pregnant. I have no clue which way's which in this bush, and he's threatening me with going back and living in the house where my daughter was killed. He said, "You'll go back and I'll make you live in the house where your daughter died, and you are not having this baby." Yeah, like, I'll make sure of that as well. All the while, I'm trying to walk around this bush. I end up walking around the bush, and at some point, the police ring the phone. Okay. And I just lost it. I'm like, I've had enough. I can't do this. Like, at this stage, he'd ring up his own father, he'd rang up his brother's girlfriend, her little brother had rang back. He'd been in...
He's working hard at trying to cover bases. Yep.
He's trying to get out of the bush. He's threatening everybody. He's made disgusting threats on the phone to everybody that day. No one would come and get us from the bush because I get so scared as well. I did walk around the bush. I was very... I said to police, come, I don't know where I am. I've had enough. I can't do this. And like I said, I now know that they had bugged the phone because they had the recordings of what the threats he'd made to me in the bush about, and when they come to collect him, what they did was they basically...
How much time had elapsed? We're talking a couple of days at the most before the police...
I think it was a week or so.
About a week.
Maybe more.
They're trying to gather as much evidence or whatever as they can.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, geez, maybe, just maybe, he will tell the truth. Or will he tell me the truth? Will he just own what he did? But...
And you arrested at a similar time, Donna, or...?
No,
He was arrested first.
He was arrested.
At which he freaked out, I imagine. Yeah.
I got told... No, he sat in the car with me, and he thought his dad was going to meet him at the other end of the trail, or at the bottom of the bush, whatever.
Yep.
And his father did come with the police, is what actually happened. So he's wandered off with the dog to go get arrested, and when they've got him at the end of the track, the police have showed up, and I'm sitting in the car, and the police officers are just like, are you right? Like, I hadn't eaten, I hadn't drank anything. I'd walked about 35 kilometres around the bush to stay away from him. I know that now. When the police got me in the car and took me to Macca, they took me to get a feed, and the cop said straight out, he was planning to kill you. We believe in our heart that he was going. He had you in like some Santa Can death march. We believe he was going to kill you.
Leave you in the bush. Knock you and leave you in the bush.
And my words to the police were, I was prepared. I was prepared to die. Because the cop said to me, we don't even know how you survived. You're either... Yeah, we don't know how you survived the bush. That. And I do know that it was recorded because later on in court they played the courtroom, the recording of him threatening me, and it was to the extent where the whole courtroom was silent, My brother was there, and he said because they heard it, and they could hear what it was inaudible. It sounded like an animal. I've heard it once since, and the way that he was speaking to me, it was like an animal. It wasn't like human. It was like an animal.
It's full on, devil stuff.
So, I had been given a new house or unit. I had my stuff there. I was told I got to see my children the day before.
You got like a visitation,
But I had some really weird instinct because I got stuck somewhere and I was trying to get a bus to try to make a visit with my kids. And I was at a caravan park and I was trying to get back there to get a shower and get ready and get to the kids, and I had a conversation with my brother on the phone, and I just had this real weird feeling because the police had rang me earlier and offered to take me to the visit. And I said, yeah, I don't. I said, no, I'll be fine. I'll be seeing my children. I'll be fine. And I went and did that, and I got put into a new unit, and I was just in the new unit.
Yeah.
And
he's under arrest. He's been charged with murder.
He's tried to harm himself. I found out when I rang. He's already in custody.
Yep.
I got this unit. I got moved in there, but literally got moved in there for a night. I made a phone call that night to my brother saying, don't think I'll be here for long. And my brother said to me, he must have had a feeling too, but I basically the police arrested me. I went downstairs.
This is a few days after he's been arrested?
Yeah, I went downstairs and police pulled up, the detectives pulled up, and I got in the back of the car and was told I was under arrest. Then I was taken to Gosford Police Station.
Under arrest for?
For, what was my charge?
Manslaughter?
No, I wasn't on manslaughter. I actually was charged with interfering in police.
Or child negligence?
Or no. I was actually charged with the lesser charge because I lied to police. So it was interfering in a police investigation. I believe that was my initial charge. Okay. I said I'll plead guilty to that. And basically my lawyer told the police I'd plead guilty to that. And the police said no, go away. We're not taking that. There was talk at one point of me not getting charged at all, but I said I'll plead guilty to that charge, the lesser of the hindering.
Yep.
For the police statement. But no, the police didn't want that, so yeah, I was taken to the police station and I gave my statement, and I had some person there as a support that I didn't know because I'd grown up in the neighbourhood and in that area, and he had also, I couldn't have a person I knew because it was too much conflict of interest. For any friend or family friend of mine, they either worked in the school that my daughter attended or which is a conflict, so I had to have a support person that was someone I didn't even know.
Docs still have your kids, or they went to your mother?
No,
Docs still have your
Docs
kids
had
at
my
this stage?
kids.
Yep. Okay.
The visit I had was my children in the park, and they were escorted there by dogs.
Okay.
But
you were arrested and...
Yeah, I was arrested. I gave my statements and
you were locked up.
Yeah. And taken to before the judge at Gosford Court the next day.
So when did the manslaughter come into it?
I know that Warren wouldn't tell the truth.
Yep.
He basically wouldn't tell him anything. I know at some point he blamed me. He had two versions.
Mm-hmm.
He blamed me, and at another point, and this is sickening, this is worse than blaming me, because you would think you'd blame me like that. But the sickening part is he had two versions of events, and he tried to blame my daughter's injury and what happened to her on her sister.
Oh, fuck's sake.
On a 7-year-old. That's the mentality of it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a manslaughter charge later on because he wouldn't tell the truth. I didn't get... People think that... People have said, oh, you let a man take the blame for you. He didn't do it.
Yep.
He was protecting you. Or a better one was, he didn't want you.
Mm-hmm.
So you blamed him. I'm like, it's not it at all. Like, that's not how you get charged. People need to understand. There has to be evidence. There has to be forensic evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he continued to tell stories and wouldn't tell the truth.
Yep.
So my charge was upgraded to manslaughter. And
you've got a solicitor, public defender,
I've got
or
like
whatever.
a legal aid lawyer.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That if you can afford better, you
can get better,
you
of
can
course,
get better,
but it's basically what the state
is
provides.
what you get.
Yep.
And that's what I got. So I'm in custody pregnant. First time in jail. Because I was a mess. I'm not gonna lie, I was a mess. I was taken into mental health cells, to be honest.
Yeah.
For my own concerns, they were obviously concerned. Due to the publicity and exposure and the child-related crime. And I was housed in mental health until I was spoken with.
Where was that at, Donna?
I was taken to Silverwater.
Yep.
And housed in mental health to be monitored.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an experience in itself.
And your trial came up, was it 2013?
Yeah, so the way I found out that I had a murder charge against me was actually quite confronting. I was going about my business in the wing, and two ladies were in their cell, had the Channel 9 news on, have called me into the room, which is really actually I'm quite grateful of the way they handled it. They did it in a really civil way, and they're like, is that...
They flicked the telly
like,
on. Like,
is that you? That's you, isn't it? And that's your child. And we're so sorry. And I'm like, broke down crying and hugged, and one of the other ladies has left to tell the officer in the wing that and was disgusted, and that particular officer was pretty disgusted with it and tried to contact my welfare to try to get me to speak to my legal. The police that were in charge had gone on leave as of that morning. Of course, I found that great timing. Channel 9 had just gotten hold of the fact that I'm on a murder charge. I get told I'm on a murder charge. Knowing, you think, oh, that can't be. That's my exact words to the girls when I broke down and was hugging them was, I didn't fucking murder my child. How do you get a murder charge?
Yeah.
And even the officer's like, that's yeah, wow, that's shit. Like, you didn't know, did you? Like, you had no idea. No, I did not have any idea, because clearly people in the police department had clearly told the news. Hadn't told my lawyer. Hadn't told my lawyer. So, again, the media ran with it and went with it and told the world that I was on a murder charge.
Yep.
Even before I was aware of the fact. And so, yeah. Now I'm on a murder charge, and I guess you're scared. I guess you are expecting I'm in a lot of shit when I go to trial. But you don't expect to ever be on a murder charge when you haven't done it.
A lot of people at the time too. You want to grab another one of those if you want, mate. A lot of people at the time too. A lot of people said, "Oh, Donna's always makes it about herself. It's about you." What do you got to say about that? Lots of people would say that at the time it's always about, "Oh, poor me, poor me, poor me."
Okay, well, I'll say this: there was people writing comments since and everything of that sort. Asking me to apologise since I've been out of custody. Why am I apologising to you? It's not about you either. Why would I? Oh, and I'll say this, and here's another. I'll explain that. I was raised to not cry. I was raised not to talk to police. In certain environments, you get taught not to show feelings. Okay, and it wasn't about me. Oh, granted, of course I'm going to go, oh, why am I going to be doing murder when I haven't murdered someone? I think most people would go, hang on, I didn't murder nobody. That's not a selfish thought. By any means.
I think that's a normal reaction.
And I know that everyone said it was about me. Or that I made it to be about me.
That's what I've heard a lot. It's always about her. That's why I wanted to ask you. Yeah.
Well, why are the strangers asking for apologies? I said, I'm not going to show any sort of remorse to you. If you place my 2 daughters before me now, by all means, let's have a discussion, let's have the conversation. But you're not entitled to my emotions.
Because you're thinking, it's my life. Were you there?
Yeah, absolutely. And
you weren't
also,
there. I wasn't there. We weren't there.
I don't think I made it about me. I don't really. I don't at all. I think, okay, as I said, most people would be, poor me. I'm going to do 18 years, 20 years, I'm on a murder charge, poor me. Of course, and you're delusional if you think you wouldn't be worrying about yourself in that moment.
Of course.
You can't worry about your kids, can I? I could. But I'm no longer able to do anything except focus on myself and trying to focus on myself. Why? Because my children aren't there. Okay, my children are being looked after. And as much as people aren't going to like this, I did have to worry about myself because I was carrying a child. Okay? And
how advanced was your pregnancy, Donna?
Okay, so that same GP that refused to help him was concerned about how far along and if there was any complications. I went to jail 8 weeks pregnant. So I was just pregnant. It was fragile.
Early stage, yeah.
I'd had all C-sections and had carried overdue. I'd also carried really large baby. I found out I was 8 weeks. I had to go out of area to have the ultrasound beforehand because for concerns for me, my safety and stuff. Basically, I carried my son and had gestational diabetes in jail. So I got gestational diabetes with my son. I lived in a medical cell at one point. But no way.
At Silverwater. You were at Silverwater the whole time.
I ended up being kept in a medical up at the clinic, locked in most of the time.
Yeah.
Because I had gestational diabetes with that pregnancy. But
so we'll go forward to your trial, 2013. That's correct?
Yeah.
Yep. There was, and I've heard this a lot too, and I've seen it too, there's a particular photograph that was taken when you were in custody with it. It was coming from, I believe, leaving the courthouse.
Yeah, leaving
or whatever.
the courthouse.
And a lot of people have said to me, oh, she's laughing, she's smiling. Do you want to add any comment to that? What happened with that photograph?
Oh, I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, please do.
I've had it mentioned to me, like, oh, look at her, and I've had a lot of threads of conversations against me. Oh, she's a clown, look at her, she thought it was funny. What actually happened was I was being led out of the courtroom, and the officer that was leading me out of the courtroom was actually a local who had lived in Woodenobby, where this happened, where I grew up. Wyong, Woodenobby, it's basically the same place. He made the joke of Aboriginal names and word meanings.
Yep.
Like something about knobs and knobby. Sorry, but...
The split second you were coming out the door, like, the media's right there.
Yeah, I'm walking upstairs, he's making a joke about Aboriginal names and being ridiculous and stupid
Right.
and funny. And whether or not it was just a nervous thing or whether I actually thought it was amusing, it wasn't because I thought what was going on. I was probably, haha, that was funny. And that's no more than that's what it was. The reaction on my face was nothing but what the conversation between us was.
Yeah. And that picture just
And then that
went
picture was
everywhere.
like,
And, yeah.
and then people read into their own, what they took from that.
Mm-hmm. You were sentenced to 12 years?
That's right.
Yeah. You did 9?
Yeah.
You've been out now for about 3?
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah. Most of the people and myself can imagine jail for this particular crime story. It would have been pretty full on.
Okay, well, it was,
if you want to talk about, you must have been assaulted, attacked, whatever. How was the jail situation?
So, as a person on a child-related crime, as a rule, you are placed in protection. Okay, that's not really a big secret. I don't think most people.
Were you in protection the whole time?
I
It's a
was
certain
not
period of
in
time.
protection the whole time.
Yep.
And I don't care that I was in protection because, like I said, it's a rule as such. And I had stints, obviously, in mental health because my mental health did deteriorate. And I did try to kill myself. So yeah, I was in safe cells as well. But due to my crime, is a very fine line between being safe and what's acceptable. So for the better part of, they would have hoped to just leave me in protection. But when you're in protection, you have to walk around the jail. You're just stopped from interacting with the main inmates. If you go and walked up a path to the clinic or something, you're verbal, you're swore at, you might be spat at, and if, unfortunately, you might have something thrown at you. Okay? By chance, they might accidentally leave a gate open, you may be assaulted, and they won't have...
You can still be got.
You can still be got. But I found it extremely hard to be in a protection wing. And that's not a poor me thing. That's because I didn't agree in my heart, in my person, with the type of crimes these women had committed. Okay, and I had to share cells with people.
You would have been hated, mate.
I was hated, but...
Let's be frank about it. You would have been hated because it's all child-related.
Yeah,
it's a horrible,
absolutely.
tragic story, but it's child-related.
If I walk, maybe even with one of the other girls that's in there, I might have to walk somewhere with her, and I might just cop the backlash from being with that person, you know? But I don't think, in comparison to some people, I did have it bad. Because sometimes I'd be able to walk up the past the backyard, past the backyards of the main girls, and I probably didn't always get what some of the other girls got. Okay, I'll be honest, I don't think I copped that, but I did. On the back of the truck, going to and fro from court, I got
bashed.
Threatened. Like, just threatened. They couldn't get their hands on me. If they could have, who knows. But...
Oh, this the time we're going to kill you, you bitch, and all
we
this sort
had
of stuff.
fights in protection. I did get to sign out when I jumped. I had to really fight for that because I couldn't tolerate living with some of the people that I'd been made live with. Because and this might sound strange, but people seem to think that I would condone these sorts of behaviours because of what happened to my child. But I was in a wing with female pedophiles. I was in a wing with female pedophiles in a cell pregnant, and they wanted to touch my belly. Okay? Now, just, think about that for a moment.
Looking gross.
That's fucking disturbing.
It's gross.
And I don't condone your behaviour. I don't want to know you. In the real world, wouldn't want to know you.
Yep.
And I'd also be judged by people in protection that had committed, vile crimes. And they would stand there, oh, you're looking at 25. And I'm thinking, but you actually killed your child. So that was very strange dynamic, and I'm sorry, but I'd have rather go to the main. And I jumped up and down, and I continuously tried to go to the main after having my son, obviously.
Yep.
I was given the option to go to the main eventually, and I signed out. And the first place I was taken to was Wellington Correctional Centre. And I did not know I was going to Wellington.
Yeah.
By no way. I was told, pack your crap, you're going today. I didn't think that was happening. I thought they'd have put me over the other side of the fence in the main at Silverwater.
Yep.
That is on the occasion when I arrived there. It was a house of women down the back of Wellington Jail. It's like a big full open house sort of thing. I got to the front door and was asked, would you like us to help you carry your stuff? And I said no politely. And it's a big trip down there. I was pretty tired. I've gone to where I was shown my room was. It's a bit of a shock. There's someone there pretty much naked. I'd pretty much lived around pretty civil. Some like girls that wouldn't be laying around their room naked. But I've gone to my bag and started to look for my toiletries to have this shower, and I was approached by a lady yelling at me, and another person behind her yelling at me, like saying I disrespected her or something like that. And I'm like, I went to approach them and said, look, I'm sorry, but I'm just tired. I want to have a shower. Look, I didn't try to, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm sorry if I was rude. At this point, the girl in the room that I was supposed to have the cell has dressed and left, and they're all in the common room, in a lounge room, common room area, talking. I'm over my bag trying to gather my toiletries still. Another girl has come back up and said, if I were you, I'd lock myself in the room. They know who you are. And that didn't take me long to lock myself in the room. And I've locked the door, and I've managed to put the cupboards against the door. And I've buzzed up, asking for the officers to come and get me. No response. At this stage, there's the girls outside trying to kick the door in, trying to break the door in, and threatening me, offering me razor blades to kill myself, a rope to hang myself. This is
day 1, day 2.
This is literally
day 1.
Maybe 5-10 minutes in the house.
Yeah, right.
On arrival. This is my welcoming committee. Okay, I've made to knock up again on the buzzer. Like, by this stage, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. You just got to come and get me. The officers at the time were in the men's yard doing a pill run, doing the pills. I'm being verbaled, come out, have a fight, have a one-on-one, have a go, all this and all that. At some point, they got a fire hydrant, they broke the door handle off. I've knocked up the third time. By about the third time, at some point, the officers showed up. Have placed them all in their cells and were locked in. They were locked in. I was escorted to the to the top of the jail, they put in the MSU, or where they kind of put you for punishment usually. I was interviewed a little bit by the IRT. That's the special security, the special team that come in and sort things out when there's violence and stuff.
With all the gear on. And,
yeah, with all the gear. And was asked, did I see a weapon? And as I said to him, I wasn't sticking around long enough to find out. But yeah, apparently it's been said to me that from another person that was living at Wellington Jail at the time, who then happened to come back to a Sydney jail where I was taken back to, that there may or may not have been a weapon, but she's of the belief that there was a weapon because a certain tool was taken and they never found the tool, and it was just before my arrival. And she was an ex-police officer that told me that. So I don't know. But they wanted me dead. That meant I had to be returned to protection.
And you've got 9 more years of this in front of you.
I knew that there was no way of getting progression or any kind of programs or anything for my parole. So as a protection inmate, you kind of know that you're stuck. And you know you've got to meet certain criteria to get back out. And you're either in a position where you've got to just get to a point where you don't do anything and you've done nothing for your parole, or you've got to accept the fact that maybe I can go into the main and have some sort of access to programs that can get me out of here. I had that happen to me, and then I still tried to sign out to the main again. Not straight away. I was put in the main again. I lived in the area 2. I was in the main. I lived in in Morgan House in the main. I was sent to work with girls in the headsets, so I actually had a job. I did have a few
befriended
jobs.
a few people, obviously. I know a majority would be hating you, but did you make a few friends
did
while
a
you were
big
inside?
chunk of time in over in area 2. I only ever was assaulted again once. And I was walking around, and I think...
Is that a group assault? Or
no, it was just one person, and because they'd... it was completely set up, and it wasn't right. It wasn't right in the way that they used a person with mental health issues and a drug habit to do that. By using a person, and that's what it was. It was a use. And when it happened to me, I didn't tell anybody. I walked back to my wing, and I ended up later in the afternoon having a big conversation, and another girl went and reported it. Not me. Another girl went and reported it the next day, and also another girl went and had words with the people that were responsible for it. And the girl that did it actually owned up to it. And I ended up talking to her. I ended up sitting at chapel one day for a Christmas service, and she come in and said, "Hello, how are you, Donna?" And I didn't... So I think I did okay. I think I did okay, not because jail's easy. I don't think I did okay because I'm the biggest, toughest. By no means am I the biggest, toughest. There's plenty of tougher people and stronger people and better fighters in jail. I think the only thing was I was willing to say, look, talk to me. This is what happened. I'll tell you what happened, and I'll tell you honestly what happened. And I think some people still consider honesty is like enough to be respected.
Yeah.
I might have had groceries stolen, nothing major, but I only earned my respect because I never lied.
Yes,
and I didn't disrespect other girls, and I didn't steal from others. I tried to get my backside out there and work, and I'd give people stuff they need. Like, I didn't survive because I'm tough, and I'm not saying I'm tough. By no means am I saying that. I think I only survived because people got through the barriers of me and were able to see.
They must have moved you around a bit, Donna. You went to how many different prisons, jails?
I have been in every jail that was opened or that I was able to go to. So I've been to every jail in New South Wales, bar 2. And at that time, Berrima was being shut again, and Mary Wade wasn't open. I've been to Broken Hill. I went to KMC.
To Emu Plains.
Emu Plains, that didn't go well. That's how I ended up at Broken Hill. Broken Hill was good because I was able to work, and I was able to go out of the jail. I got a classification that meant I could go out of the jail too. And this is quite an interesting thing to say, but the job I was given at Broken Hill was when I was to go to the gravesite, the graveyard at Broken Hill. We were to attend to the maintenance and the upkeep of the baby's memorial garden. Now, to some people, I guess that would be hard, but to me, after being treated like less than a human throughout jail, it was somewhat therapeutic because it made me be able to help these people, because a lot of the families have had to leave those grave sites and leave town and move on and elsewhere, and to me it was like a therapy. It was therapeutic because I didn't feel like I'm not being judged. I'm not being judged. They're allowing me to do this. They're allowing me to do what the other girls are doing. They're not saying I shouldn't be here. Because a lot of jail time is, I believe, you go to nothing. You become nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have, you go down to a level where you're a number.
Yeah.
Or you're, come here, mate, get over here. Like you're nothing. And at a certain point, you've probably got no self-esteem there. You're nothing. You're a number.
Yeah.
And little things like that. And when I went to Clarence, which was right at the end of my sentence, and being referred to by your name was even enough just to make you feel like human. But you get to a point where you feel worthless, I guess, at a point. Or nothing.
Yeah. It's been interesting talking to you today. This is the first time you spoke about this, Donna.
Yeah.
Have you been wanting to have your say for quite a while?
Of course,
You've never actually got to have your say?
I've never had my say. And I'd sit back and read, and I have read a lot, and I've had stuff like put to me, and I've been had people contact me with threats and stuff, but no, I haven't spoken about it.
Because I believe a network did approach you or something when you got out of jail.
Oh yeah, a network. Yeah, of course.
And you said no.
I said no. Why?
Because exactly. Yeah.
Why would I talk to you when you're
going to twist everything around?
You didn't care about walking. I've never, up until a couple of months ago, I didn't bury my daughter. I hadn't been to her gravesite, and the first time I seen my daughter's gravesite was on Channel 9. But they thought it was okay because my daughter's father had taken up with someone else.
Yep.
And she got on there and talked about me. She got on there and spoke about it. They interviewed her. This woman had nothing to do. Now, I know everybody also has this impression, this great woman, this lovely person, she should have had that kid. They should have had him, the stepmom. She wasn't a stepmom.
This is Adrian.
This is Adrian's partner.
Yep.
Who he cheated on when I was pregnant with my daughter. I wanted to get that out. I had to say it. I had to say it because she was the catalyst and behind a lot of what there was like a website set up, and it was meant to be for the purpose of memorial purposes or for remembering my daughter. But the sole catalyst, from what I've found out from everybody that saw the site, was to bag me out. And I don't have time for it because she went about publicising herself at the cost of the other two children. I'm sorry, but as I said, I would take anything that's thrown at me from my own family and my own daughters that were present. But I will not. This person continued to go before the media. My children are not children anymore, but that's a lifelong thing that they do have to live with. And why would you, as a woman, as a mother, you could attack me, but why do you think that you should be telling the story to the media and prolonging the issue and showing photos of my daughter and walking through my daughter's place of burial? So fuck, that's another thing that she did on one of her interviews was, obviously the children were interviewed by the police, and because of their age, they make tend to do drawings, which they consider an impact statement because they're children. They get to draw and write in their own style. Well, this woman decided that it would be a really good idea to supply those drawings. So I don't know how she got hold of them. She basically outed my daughter's impact statement. These are children's drawings. These are children's drawings that to put a piece of shit in jail. And these kids are scared and are trying to move on.
Yeah.
And it hurt me, okay?
Yeah.
It pisses me off because I'm perceived as this person, but there's kids. And I can tell you right now, as a woman, there is no way I'd be supplying children's drawings for a fucking media interview.
Yeah.
And then Channel 9 want to come to me I believe you are entitled to tell your story.
Yeah.
But for every interview and 60 Minutes and Current Affair and every interview you've done nothing but mislead everybody.
Yeah. You're entitled to tell your story, but we'll tell it our way.
My way. Okay? Not like
We're
that.
not media,
No.
and that's why I want to give you this chance to tell your story.
But so I often think about all the stuff that's out there and things like that, and how I'm being said to be this person, but no one really sits there and thinks about the fact that all that stuff that's put out there is kept, and it can be viewed by all my kids. Okay, it can be viewed by my son, it can be viewed by the girls, and every time one of them people have gone and have spoken to a media thing, that's more bullshit that my kids have to see. And that was one of my issues with it.
Sure. So you've got a good... We have to wrap up shortly.
Okay.
Yeah. You've got a good relationship, you would say, with your children? Or your young adults?
No, I don't. And that's because I believe...
Is there some contact or some level of contact? Or
I'll be really real here and say that when I signed my parole conditions, there was this stipulation in there that I didn't properly read. I was just excited to be signing it, and I was at work and was pulled off the yard and I signed it, and then I looked at it later and realised there's something there that means I'm not actually meant to speak to the victims of the crime. I tried to have it fixed and I tried to have it amended many times since being out of jail.
no chance.
My daughter has basically... I'm not to speak to them, and that's legally. I have...
How old is she, Donna?
She's now 19. I have had I've been breached. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not saying this to
You
say...
breached your parole.
I've breached my parole, okay?
Yep.
And I'll be honest here, I breached my parole, and I've breached my parole several times because my children reached out to me. And I wanted to give my children the opportunity to go through anything and everything with me that happened and ask the questions, okay? So I had my daughter contact me a little while ago, my younger daughter, and I ended up receiving a phone call from the care organisation that had my children, where my daughter is so vulnerable emotionally that I believe she genuinely wanted to have that conversation with me. I believe she wanted to talk to me, but afterwards it left her distraught, upset, emotional, and she couldn't handle it. So I said to them, I will not contact my child if it's going to cause her issues. I don't want my child to be upset. I want it to be healthy. I believe one of my children does want to speak to me and the other one no.
Yeah, right.
And as for my son, well,
that's
a whole different thing.
Yeah. Look, down the track, maybe, excuse me, who knows?
Yeah.
But look, I think for now we'll have to wrap this up.
Okay.
For now, I say thank you for reaching out to us to talk about this. We're not promoting anything, and this is a very tragic and sad story. So we're not. How can I say? It's not to give you a platform, but you needed. Excuse me. You needed to have a say, and Donna reached out to us, and I've always said, as I said at the start of the show, I think there's two sides to every coin, and she needed to have a say. She hasn't had a say, and she has been approached, and because we're not media, she decided to come in on your own steam today. And again, she wasn't paid. Coffee and water was the only we provide for all our guests. And that's but it's been a very difficult crime and story, and we do appreciate you coming in today, Donna, and trying to clear up a few facts. The media, they do. I think there's, with the media story these days, it's sort of 50% half facts and then 50% bullshit. They seem to get Absolutely. The Western media is just shocking, and they seem to get worse, whether it's terrible crimes or politics or whatever. Anyway, I chewed over this. This was very difficult for me today, Swingers, in a very serious Macca school today. And as I said, I think that she needed to have a say. It took a while to come to this decision, and so if there's if anyone wants to, it's on me. I decided to do this, not to upset people, and as I said, it is such a serious thing. If you can't, if it disturbs you that much, please, I'm not forcing you to watch it, and I don't want to upset anyone, but since starting this as well, I think it's fair to try, and I want to do some crimes in every state, which I've stated before, and there's so many different stories out there. This is a really hard one, and it's been really hard on Donna and myself. This has been very difficult. I mean, it's just a very sad situation. But it happened, and things need to be discussed in the world. Things happened, and it's a bit like history. There's good history and bad history. There's good and bad of everything. So anyway, thank you, Donna. Today I can't promote it too much, but Swingers, like and subscribe if you can. But it has been a very serious one today, and we thank you for coming in. You've come in off your own steam, and I hope that gives you some to get something out, some sort of
mostly.
Anything you want to finish on, mate? Or?
I'll just say, mostly I think that people have they can hear my side now and make their decisions more equally based on knowing what I have to say. That doesn't mean they have to agree with me.
Yep.
But I believe this is a more rounded way for them to make their conclusions or their opinions of me.
Yep.
Whether that be bad or good, it's not about that. There just needed to be a little bit more emphasis on truth.
Yeah. No, as I've said many times, there's two sides to every coin. Anyway, thank you for speaking to us today, mate.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best. That was episode 29, Swingers. A hard one. But we will be back soon with episode 30 and something a little bit different and something a bit more sort of uplifting. But a hard one today, and it's a terrible story, and we're not trying to excuse you. We make no excuses for what's happened. We're not trying to... It's just a platform. It's more of a voice, and it's the first time she's had this voice. So... thanks very much, Swingers. A long one and a hard one. We'll be back for episode 30 soon, which will be something completely different. And I wish you all the best. Take care, Swingers. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you again, Donna. Bye.